Welcome back, everybody. Well, now that everyone is at home and restaurants are closed, we are all cooking more. So how should we stock our pantries, and what are some good ideas using some staples that we all have in the kitchen? Kristina Vanni is a culinary expert, award-winning cook, television host, food writer, and recipe developer. She joins us live via FaceTime from her kitchen. Well, it's actually not your kitchen. It looks more like a pantry. Hi, Kristina.
It is. Hello, hello. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about, how to stock your pantry nowadays.
I think this is a fantastic topic, obviously so timely. So what are your suggestions for stocking the pantry?
Well, there's different categories to think about for a well-stocked pantry that then you can use to make a whole bunch of different meals. So first, think about dried goods. So things like pastas, dried legumes, grains, things like that. Then you can think about canned items. So that would be things like canned beans, different vegetable stocks, chicken stocks. Then you can also think about spices, because having a nice array of spices, that's what's going to make things interesting over these coming weeks as we keep going to our pantry to make meals. And then don't forget about things like your cooking and baking items. So flour, sugar, salt, baking soda, baking powder, things like that. And then finally, think about cooking oils and vinegars. So you'll want to have olive oil, vegetable oil. Those are two good staples. And then also maybe some white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, maybe balsamic vinegar.
Interested in your thoughts on pantry proteins, because I've been eating a lot more tuna fish lately and some very high quality canned chicken.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that is, a non-perishable form of protein. So maybe even, canned tuna, pouches of salmon, even something like some dried salami or some beef jerky. Those are other good things to have on hand.
Really good proteins at last. I like that you are a fan of those. So what are some of your favorite recipe ideas, things that you can make using pantry staples?
Yeah, there are so many great recipes that you can use just with what you have from a well-stocked pantry. Now, some of those recipes are the real obvious things. So you might have a box of pasta and a jar of your favorite sauce. But I have noticed, being in the grocery stores the past week or so, those are starting to empty from the shelves. So what I wanted to do is give you a couple of ideas with pantry items that you probably will still be able to find. One of my favorite pantry items is lentils. So lentils are great. They're low in calories, they're high in fiber. It's a plant-based protein as well. And so I have a recipe for an instant pot lentil soup that's all made with pantry ingredients. It's really, really delicious.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and another thing to think about is I know a lot of people they're kind of getting the itch to bake right now when they're at home. So I have another recipe for some Raisin Bran muffins that also uses pantry ingredients. It actually uses an entire box of Raisin Bran cereal. And what's cool about that recipe is it makes a ton of batter. So if you want to make a giant batch of muffins, you can do that. But you can also take that batter and you can store it in an airtight container for up to 1 week. So that means you can wake up each morning and just scoop out a little bit of the batter, make some freshly baked muffins, and wake up to that aroma every single day. I think it's things like those little luxuries that are going to feel good right now when we're all at home.
I totally agree with you. That's why it's such a great idea. And it sounds like it's loaded with fiber and healthy stuff too. I wonder, because you're so good at cooking and you have so many great recipe ideas, what do you think we need to sort of remember right now? Or what do you think that we need to take from this as we're stuck at home and cooking and trying to look at recipes?
Absolutely. That's something I've been thinking a lot about lately. And I feel like this is the time to turn to those recipes from our grandparents' generations, because they were the ones, they knew how to get through tough times. They knew how to pinch a penny. So this is the time to, dust off that old recipe box, crack open the old cookbooks, and look at those recipes from previous generations, because those techniques and skills, that's really what's going to help us.
I love your attitude about all this too, because you say, hey, learn a new skill right now, reduce food waste, be good to our environment right now. And you also say, get creative with leftovers, make it stretch.
Absolutely. So if we're thinking about our grandparents' generation, think about things like homemade, not store-bought. Again, the aisle in the grocery store that is very bare right now is the bread aisle. So this is the time to learn how to make homemade bread. It's actually, it's not, people think of that it's intimidating. It's not. Making homemade bread, first of all, your house is going to smell delicious. It's not that hard. I have a bunch of different recipes, everything from an English muffin bread. You know, if you can't find English muffins, you can make English muffin bread, a honey whole wheat, maybe homemade breadsticks. There's a lot of things you can do with homemade bread. So that's one trick from our grandparents' generation. I also think about one thing my grandma always used to say. She had this phrase. She said, everything tastes better in a crust. And what they used to do, I always love that. And what they used to do is they would save some of the leftovers throughout the week, maybe a little bit of bacon, maybe some leftover vegetables, maybe a little bit of cheese. And at the end of the week, they had all this stuff to make a really delicious quiche. So whisk it all together with some eggs, pour it into a homemade crust or a prepared pastry crust, and bake it in the oven. You have a delicious quiche. And also, quiches freeze really well. So that's another great thing. Make one now and freeze one for later.
See, I love that. Real quick, best ways to grocery shop during this time.
Well, the first thing you want to do is take inventory of what you already have at home. You don't need to double buy. And also, you want to get rid of anything that maybe has already expired. So clean out those pantries, organize it so you use what's going to expire first, and then make a list of what you need. So look through those recipes, know what you need, so you're ready to go. You're armed when you're ready to go to the grocery store. And when you're there, buy what you need, but let's not hoard things. This is not the time to buy a giant case of mandarin oranges that you're never going to use. So, you get what you need and then leave something on the shelf for the next shoppers. And, at this time, you can, if you know what you need, you can order them online maybe. If you're part of the more vulnerable population, there's early opening hours that you can use. So those are all different things that we can do to sort of strategize as we go to the grocery store.
I love that, Kristina. It's so great seeing you and talking to you. I appreciate your time so much.
Oh, thank you so much. This is a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Stay well. And I want to make sure all of our viewers know, if you go to themorningblend.com, we're going to post the great recipes that Kristina mentioned. So go to themorningblend.com for those.